Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's forum in docket number 2005-83A. Our forum today relates to proposed procedural schedules for the 2023, 2024, and 2025 annual fuel proceedings and purchase gas adjustment proceedings. I'm Jocelyn Boyd. I'm with the Public Service Commission. Also present today, we have a representative from Dominion Energy South Carolina Incorporated. Mr. Burgess, would you please speak to everyone, say hello? Any other words you have?
Good afternoon, Jocelyn and members of the commission staff. I'm Chad Burgess, and I'm here representing Dominion Energy South Carolina today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And we have our general counsel from the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff.
Good afternoon, Ms. Boyd and commission staff. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to be here and provide comments, and we look forward to the forum today.
Thank you, General Counsel Huber. Thank you very much. And I do think we have counsel for Piedmont Natural Gas Company Incorporated appearing virtually.
Yes, Ms. Boyd. Again, Jason Richardson on behalf of Piedmont Natural Gas Company. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and the opportunity to work with commission and commission staff. Thank you.
Thank you. And also counsel for Duke Energy Carolinas LLC and Duke Energy Progress LLC. And I think counsel for those companies also has an employee from Duke Energy present.
Hey, good afternoon, Ms. Boyd. Yes, Katie Brown here for DEC and DEP. Also appearing with me virtually today is Brian Sykes. He's our Director of Rates and Regulatory Planning.
Welcome, Ms. Brown and Mr. Sykes. Okay, everyone, we have prepared a spreadsheet that I think includes the comments from everyone who had substantive comments. And I wanted to present that first, and then we will proceed with in the order of presentations or comments from everyone based on the agenda that was published today and should have been served on all the representatives in docket 2005-83A. So let me first display the spreadsheet. Okay, hopefully you can read this, and then once I've shown everyone the spreadsheet, the electronic spreadsheet, then Mr. Huber and Mr. Burgess will provide you with a copy. We have hard copies, okay? So what we did is we included the fuel proceedings at the top of the spreadsheet and then the PGA proceedings at the bottom. And as I said, we tried to include all the written comments that the commission received in the spreadsheet that you're reviewing now. For example, if you can see lines 3, 5, and 7 for Duke Energy Carolina's fuel proceeding, Duke Energy Carolinas provided some alternative dates. And so, for example, 2023, the company proposed that its direct testimony be filed on July 31st. In 2024, July 29th, and in 2025, July 29th. All right. I'm going to continue with Duke Energy Carolinas. So in this row where the row is, you see black ink, as if something has been redacted. Nothing's been redacted. It's just that we didn't find where Duke had any specific comments regarding all of the parties' testimony due dates or surrebuttal. Hence, there isn't any data there. Okay? Here or here or here or here. However, if we've correctly surmised Duke's comments related to the surrebuttal testimony due date, those companies proposed that the surrebuttal due date be at least 7 days prior to the deadline be set at least 7 days prior to the hearing date. And so we included information here in 23, 24, and 25, that's Duke Energy Carolina's preference. And then no other comments, as you can see, are displayed for Duke Energy Carolinas. Now, this column F, where you see intervention deadline after company direct deadline, CMC Steel, of course, filed written comments, and that entity indicated they would not be present today. However, we tried to capture CMC Steel's comments in this column. It's not in the draft that was originally published on behalf of commission staff. And my reading of CMC Steel's comments is it is CMC Steel's preference that the intervention deadline for fuel proceedings be set after the company's direct testimony deadline date, and that's only for fuel proceedings. Hence, you see this long arrow, upward arrow, and it's just pointing to, of course, the entity that's responsible for that comment. All right. Don't have much more here. For Duke Energy Progress, which is next, Duke Energy Progress on line 11, column E, we'll start there. It appears as if they proposed that they proposed the same direct testimony date as staff, April 20th, 2023. However, in 2024, the company proposes that the company's Duke Energy Progress's direct testimony be filed, that the deadline be set for April 22nd, 2024, and then in 2025, the proposed deadline is April 21st, 2025. No comments regarding the other parties or rebuttal, but similar comments for the deadline for surrebuttal testimony. Okay. Then, Dominion Energy, my reading of Dominion Energy's comments for both its fuel case and PGA is that it does not oppose the draft that staff provided. All right. And then finally, Piedmont Natural Gas Company and the Office of Regulatory Staff, based on my reading of the documents that they filed, had an opportunity to converse. And I think that, I wouldn't say jointly, ORS filed comments, and then Piedmont, I think, acquiesced. But you will have an opportunity, to, of course, to state your view. So on line 26 for Piedmont Natural Gas Company's PGA, ORS proposes, and Piedmont does not, well, Piedmont agrees with a company deadline for direct testimony for the company for 2023 of June 22nd, 2023, June 24th, 2024, and then June 24th, 2025. And then here's some other dates which are different from what staff proposed for all of the parties direct: June 29, 2023, July 1, 2024, July 1, 2025, rebuttal, July 6, 2023, July 8th, 2024, and July 8th, 2025. And then I don't think there was a disagreement here. This is the hearing date, but some alternative dates proposed by Office of Regulatory Staff and agreed to by Piedmont in 2024, July 15th, 2024, and July 15th, 2025. Okay? So if you, as I said, that's based on our reading of the filings, and we'll now proceed. I will provide, since we've displayed this spreadsheet to the public, we will provide Mr. Huber and Mr. Burgess with a copy, and we will proceed with also Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, you're first on the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Again, I'm Chad Burgess on behalf of Dominion Energy South Carolina, and our comments are very brief. Number one, thank you, Ms. Stark. We appreciate, on behalf of the company, we do appreciate the commission staff and under your leadership, Jocelyn, preparing the schedule for the next few years. So we appreciate you doing that. We know there's a lot of hard work and energy that goes into preparing procedural schedules for the amount of parties who appear before you. So your task has not gone unnoticed at the company. Once I did get this suggested schedule from the commission staff, I did present it to the company. We took a look at it, and the company was pleased with the manner in which you had presented the dates for us. And as you correctly indicated earlier in your comments, the company has no objection to the schedule that the commission staff has put together for it, for both its fuel proceeding and its purchase gas adjustment proceeding, which occurs later in the year. So unless you have any questions for me, Jocelyn, I have no further comments on behalf of the company, and we'll just conclude again by saying thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Burgess. No, I don't have any questions. I appreciate you being here. Okay. General Counsel Huber, are you ready?
Yes, Ms. Boyd,
Okay.
thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and for the chance to provide these comments, both written and orally. As you mentioned in your summary at the beginning, ORS has reviewed the schedules that were proposed with the notice of the forum, and we were able to discuss with Piedmont some proposed changes to the schedule for Piedmont's PGA, and you did summarize those correctly. What we were able to agree to was basically we were proposing to make the intervals for the Piedmont PGA comparable to what it is in the desk PGA, where there's 21 days between the company's direct and then ORS intervenor direct, and then 7-day interval for rebuttal, a 7-day interval for rebuttal, and then a 7-day interval before the hearing. And we were able to accomplish that without moving the hearing date for 2023, but as you mentioned, we did propose a change to the hearing date for 2024 and 2025. I believe for 1 year it was by 4 days, but that was by 5 days, moving it back. So we do support the agreement that we reached with Piedmont. That is the proposal we have presented to the commission staff. I did want to respond briefly to some of the other comments that were filed. We did review CMC Steel's comments, and we do not oppose their recommendation about the intervention deadline possibly being moved back after the utility files direct testimony. With regard to Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress's comments, we're not opposed conceptually to their recommendations, but our primary concern is not changing the deadline. That is that the deadline for DEP and DEX direct should not come at the expense of shortening the time that ORS and interveners have to file their direct after Duke's direct is filed. We don't believe that should come at that expense. There's a lot that goes into these reviews. We conduct very comprehensive reviews, and we don't believe that changing that deadline should come at the expense of shortening the deadline for our direct and for intervener direct in those proceedings. It's really just the same concerns with the recommendation for 7 days between rebuttal and the hearing. Ideally, there would be more time between when rebuttal is filed and the hearing, but we don't believe that additional time should come at the expense of the time after the company files its direct, before ORS and the interveners have to file theirs, and as well as the intervals for rebuttal and rebuttal are already compressed in the current schedule and what was proposed, and we don't believe those should be shortened further. That's really the summary of our comments at this time, both what we filed and our views in response to the comments that were filed by other parties. And I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, General Counsel Huber. I don't have any questions. It's the tougher cases, situations, I think, for the commission as a whole occur when there are deadlines. And for PGAs, of course, I don't see the same hard, fast deadlines as fuel cases. So I can't wait to talk to Ms. Brown and Mr. Sykes, because that's where I think a lot of the commission has has harder constraints. They're not as flexible. So I appreciate you mentioning your concerns, though, about making sure that ORS has sufficient time also between the time it receives the company's rebuttal testimony and time to review it before the hearing and file rebuttal. That time is not too compressed. It doesn't take away from your time to adequately review the rebuttal testimony and then file a response if needed. So I appreciate that. So I don't
Thank
have
you.
any other questions, though.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. And I'll just, that concern also goes for the direct that's filed by the company,
Okay.
not shortening that. I think currently it's about, the interval is usually 4 weeks, and
Yeah.
what's proposed is between 30 and 33 weeks, and what's proposed by commission staff.
Yeah.
We certainly understand Duke's position, wanting to move the direct deadline back some. It's just, we don't believe that should come at the expense of shortening the time we have to review and to prepare our direct, as well as interveners that participate in the fuel proceeding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown, are you and Mr. Sykes ready?
Hey, Miss Boyd, I sure am. Again, I'm Katie Brown representing DEC and DEP here. We appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon to discuss the procedural schedules for the companies for the 2023, 2024, and 2025 fuel cases. And we filed comments in this proceeding, which I'm sure the folks on this call have already reviewed. And so I won't go into too much detail here, and I'll be pretty brief. I think the biggest concern that we have that I want to flag is that the direct testimony deadline for DEC's 2022 fuel case is July 29th. But for 2023, it's moved to July 14th. And, you know, I think if I have this correctly, for 2023, the time in between surrebuttal testimony for DEC is reduced to 3 days from surrebuttal to the hearing, and for DEP, it's 2 days from the surrebuttal deadline to the hearing. And the companies feel strongly that that is simply not enough time upon receipt of surrebuttal testimony to prepare for the hearing. I think the bigger concern here, and that Mr. Sykes will be able to speak to in more detail, is that following the commission's order issued in the 2021 DEC fuel case, which directed the company to base its testimony in future fuel dockets on a fuel forecast prepared within 30 days of the pre-filing deadline for direct testimony, or otherwise explain why it cannot. Both the companies actually restructured the timing of their fuel forecasts. So we're now actually producing essentially 6 forecasts instead of 4, as we were doing before that case. So we've taken some pretty significant steps internally with our current resources to deliver a more timely forecast on which to propose fuel rates. And if the deadline for direct testimony is, for example, with DEC is the example that I will point to here for 2023, is pushed to July 14th. I understand that that the rates team and the legal team would receive the forecast for incorporating into testimony on or around July 8th, and that gives us only about six days to finalize, I guess, actually to put together testimony, finalize testimony, for the rates witness to do their work, for legal to do their work. And that's just a really compressed time frame when we're talking about a deadline today for 2022 of July 29th. And we're certainly sensitive to ORS's concerns about, potentially reducing their time for review. And I believe we're open to some compromise with respect to the surrebuttal, the time in between surrebuttal and the hearing. But in our opinion, leaving the deadlines as they are, or similar to the dates as are set for the DEC 2022 fuel proceeding, would be our ideal scenario. We think that allows us enough time, given our new workflows with respect to the fuel forecast, to get accurate and complete testimony ready and filed by around July 29th. So that's really a summary of our comments. I can go into more detail, or I'm happy to answer questions, but I think our biggest concern is that our two biggest concerns would be with respect to moving the direct testimony deadline earlier and reducing the time between surrebuttal and the hearing down to just 2 or 3 days.
And this is probably a rhetorical question, Ms. Brown, but the rates effective date that's included on the spreadsheet, that has to occur for the company, right? October 1st and July 1st for DEP and October 1st for DEC?
That is my understanding.
I think part of the issue internally for the commission is making sure the commissioners have sufficient time, that the transcript is prepared and that there's sufficient time for review here. And if the commissioners want proposed orders and or briefs in the case, it becomes, I think that's part of the issue for why we've scheduled the proposed hearing dates as we have, to make sure the commissioners have sufficient time to review the cases in 23, 24, and 25. And that's why they're approximately a month before the rates effective date. I think a lot of the schedules for the drivers for the schedules for the fuel cases, of course, are the dates that the utility wants to implement those rates. So I guess that's the biggest driver. And then, of course, if we start from that end, when the rates have to be effective, do the commissioners have sufficient time to do their work? So, unless you and Mr. Sykes but you feel at this point those rates effective dates are firm?
Brian, would you be able to speak to that in more detail? I'm not exactly sure the origin of the rate effective date.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
Good
Katie,
afternoon.
I'm not aware of what set those rates originally. I think the company would be willing to revisit when the effective dates are for DEC and DEP. And if that allows a better opportunity for ORS Commission to get through the proceeding, I think that's something we would definitely be interested in pursuing.
It's just, Mr. Sykes, thank you for appearing too and talking today. I think that's, just making sure the commissioners are comfortable that they have sufficient time. That's why you notice I think we tried to do that with most of these other than the fuel proceedings, because there really isn't a deadline. That's not a reason not to make a decision or issue an order, but there's really not as much of a deadline in the PGAs. And I think we have a little more flexibility there, but I would say for the fuel proceedings, definitely the commission is aware of the rate. I said rates because I'm referring to several years, the rates effective dates, and trying to accommodate those dates. And then, as I said, making sure they feel comfortable with their review period. So I just hope you understand why we proposed what we did, okay? There.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate the opportunity. Okay. I know there's a lot of work that goes into these fuel proceedings for all parties involved. So to the extent we can revisit and get agreement with all parties that the effective rate dates could slide out maybe by a month, I think that allows us more opportunities collectively.
Okay. Well, I think this was a great conversation because now you understand our perspective and more about the schedule other than what was filed in DMS. That's the reason.
Ms. Boyd, we're certainly very sensitive to the fact that the commission needs a sufficient time, to review the record and the transcript and proposed orders, and to issue a decision on the basis of that information. And we can definitely take that back and look into the rate effective date and file something in this docket if you'd like, once we've been able to look into that issue a little bit. I know that after presenting these proposed schedules to our rates team, they were a little bit taken aback as to the direct testimony filing deadlines, just because we had, I understand they have completely restructured that timing of the forecast to accommodate the commission order. So to the extent that we can push out that rate effective date, that would be extremely helpful, I think, for the commission and for the company.
Okay. Attorney Stark, did you have anything you wanted to say? Okay. So everybody, let me just tell you what we're planning to do. We of course will take your comments back to the commission. We are working on some other schedules too. I don't want to be detailed right now, so I'll probably see you again within the next month, not regarding fuel and PGA, but in both scenarios, we will present the commissioners with the proposals, okay? So they'll be provided a copy of this spreadsheet, and Mr. Sykes and Ms. Brown, if you have a different proposal related to your rates effective date, we will also present that to them, okay? And as I said, this won't be the last discussion we have about schedules in the very near future.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so Mr. Richardson, I just skipped over you. I'm so sorry. I noticed that.
No.
I apologize.
No problem at all.
Do you have any comments?
Again, Jason Richardson on behalf of Piedmont Natural Gas Company. I just really want to echo on behalf of the company, everybody else's comments and appreciation for commission and staff and all the hard work they put into these schedules. I think you and Mr. Huber had accurately summarized the discussions that the ORS and Piedmont Natural Gas have had regarding the PGA schedules, and we do not have any further comments at this time.
Okay, great. So what we'll do also, everybody, the spreadsheet that we provided, that I showed you, that I displayed, we will post this on DMS, just in case others in your company or entities want to review what you saw on the screen, and Mr. Huber and Mr. Burgess have hard copies. So we will post that. Should be within the next 30 minutes and serve you with that on DMS, okay? And Ms. Brown and Mr. Sykes, if you have further comments, we look forward to receiving those, please, about the rates effective dates. And I think that we've given everyone an opportunity to speak. Does anyone have any other comments?
Ms. Boyd,
Yes, ma'am.
is there a date by which you'd like to have our additional comments submitted?
Can you provide it within the next 2 weeks? Is that possible?
I believe that we can.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Okay, if staff doesn't have anything else, all right. We're going to conclude this forum today. Thank you, everyone, for accommodating us in your schedule today, and we'll see you soon. Trust me. Have a good afternoon.